Welcome to the Rinkside Rundown podcast, showcasing the incredible women's hockey players from around the world through compelling interviews and discussions alongside your host, Chris Sinclair.
Hello and welcome back to the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Today I am thrilled to be joined by Elle Hartje, a Detroit, Michigan native, Yale graduate, and the newest member of PWHL New York. Elle, thanks so much for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be doing this.
Oh, I can't wait. This has been front of mind for me for quite some time now, and I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen. This has been a whirlwind week for you, so I can't wait to get into all of that, and we will. But we're going to start right back at the beginning. There is nothing better than a good origin story. That's kind of my perspective. And I wanted to know, what was it about hockey that drew you to the sport?
So my dad played professionally, and he put me into skates as soon as I could walk. So that wasn't really a conscious decision, but obviously I was welcome to walk away whenever I wanted. But as soon as I stepped on the ice, I think I fell in love, and that's what my parents tell me. I have 3 siblings, and it definitely wasn't the case for all of them. I think they took a little more coaxing to stick with it, and maybe then they would like it. But I was a rink rat from day one, especially because my 2 older siblings would be at the rink all the time with my parents, and my dad was their coach. So I was just there. I would do my homework. I just loved running around the rink, finding little spaces there. So fell in love with it from day one. My dad also being alongside me until college definitely helped. It was sort of like a family thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting you bring up your family. Obviously, this was inevitable that it would happen, but your family, like, when we talk about like athletic families, I would say yours is probably up there on that list. What was it like? Let's start with, what was it like to grow up in a family full of athletes?
Well, there were certainly some fights. We are not only an athletic family, but probably the most competitive family you'll ever meet, especially with each other when it comes to competition. Like, we support each other 100% in our endeavors and everything, but whether it's a board game, trivia, any type of football in the yard, basketball, we made everything a competition, and there was definitely some tears shed. But I think it really fostered an environment where we were all able to excel at the next level, because no one was going to be harder on us than each other. And it was nice that we kind of could keep that contained within the family, that competitive nature. But whenever we went out into the world and did whatever we wanted to do, it takes a village to be where we are and to be an elite athlete. And I definitely would not be where I am without them supporting me every step of the way. And all of them get it. So sometimes you just need a vent or talk about things, and they can reciprocate what you're saying. So I'm super lucky in that sense.
And I want to get into a little bit more about the impact that they had on you, especially now as you continue your career. But I want to know, what's it like in at Thanksgiving or Christmas, where you're the family's all together, and it's like that's an opportune time, as you've mentioned, to get out onto the rink or the ODR, or get out into the field and play some football. What's that atmosphere like, where you have to juxtapose we love each other and we're around each other, but also get out of my way, I want to score this goal?
Yeah, so I would actually point to COVID, when we were all home and in the same place for an extended period of time. Because when we got to the point where it was Thanksgivings or Christmases, there was definitely competition, but it was less time. So we were kind of able to balance it a little bit better. But when we were all in the same space for a long time, that's when things got serious. We were having, game nights every night. We play a lot of football in the backyard. And the flip from when my younger brother started getting better than me, I definitely didn't handle that as well as I could have. It resulted in me taking a little hiatus, and then I was like, you know what? No, this is fun. And I do think that as we got older, it did get a little less competitive in that sense. We just kind of wanted to have fun with it. But that said, I mean, my family is super instrumental to my hockey game, and so they come on the ice with me a lot and we'll do sticks and pucks. But even then, like sometimes when my brother's coaching me, I'll just get frustrated and it'll get heated, but it's coming from the place of love, and I know he wants me to get better, so it dissipates quickly. Like we fight and then we get over it and we keep going. But I wish that you could be a fly on the wall because I'm not doing it justice. Like we go hard 100%. Even in Monopoly.
Oh, yeah. So the competition, it doesn't matter what sport you're doing. It doesn't even need to be a sport, but whatever you're doing, there is competition involved in some way or another.
Oh yeah, I would say board games are worse. Like Monopoly, Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride. We have so many of them, but yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more. You've mentioned a couple of times just how important family's been to you. Obviously it's certainly pushed you and challenged you. But what, talk a little bit more about like, especially the impact on your hockey career and how, how your family has been there. And again, especially now that you're moving into the next stage in your career, what it's been like to have their support behind you this entire time.
Yeah, so I, like I mentioned before, had the opportunity to play for my dad for the extended period of my life until I went to college. And his expertise, I mean, I trust him fully because obviously I know that he had my best interest at heart every time that he had anything to say to me or any critiques. And my mom was also an athlete, a collegiate Division I athlete. And so she kind of helps me with the mental side and is just a sounding board for me when maybe I don't want that hockey specific help. And I also was able to play with my older sister, who's 2 years older than me. I got to play with her for a year. And my older brother, he's a 96, I'm an 01, so he's a bit older. And growing up, he was always such a role model. And so anytime that I could get on the ice with him and get his expertise, that was great. And then my younger brother was sort of closer in skill to me, so the two of us would be able to do battle drills and stuff. And we definitely were a hockey-oriented family. We played a lot of other sports, but like I said, it takes a village. And so whenever I needed anything or called on them for anything, they were there hockey-wise. And then outside of that, I think it's just their support. And, athletics is not easy. You're going to be shot down sometimes. You're going to get cut from teams. Maybe some coaches will tell you they don't think you're good. And mentally, that's hard. It's hard to continue to believe in yourself. And I'm really lucky to have a big family who believes in me 110%. So when that doubt starts to creep in, they nip it in the bud as quickly as possible.
You don't really necessarily realize how important a family can be, especially it's great when they're there for you with you for those highs, but it's equally as important for them to be there when, like you said, you get cut or you get negative feedback, for them to be able to be so supportive. I'm sure that must help encourage you, to overcome those obstacles and to be able to move forward.
Yeah, I would say it's actually way more important for the lows. When you're at the highs, everybody gets it. Everybody understands a big win. Everybody understands, oh, you're drafted, you're playing professionally. And so the family support there is great. But when you're at the lows, not everybody gets it. And maybe they don't even know what you're going through. And so it's sort of just like a built-in therapy system of the first thing I'll do is text in the family group chat. And my family group chat, by the way, is popping off during every game. Like, my dad's like, go to the net. My mom's like, just breathe. Sasha's like, I'm so proud of you. Like, it's firing. So I had to start putting it on Do Not Disturb because I was always on aux and I was like seeing them and I was like, okay, so I don't need to see these all the time. But yeah, it's definitely great for the tearful moments as well as the highs, but definitely the lows.
Nice. And I think, this is a natural segue for us to maybe discuss a little bit. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but I'm gonna do it anyways. You actually had the opportunity to play. This feels like a perfect segue. You had the opportunity to play in Bratislava, a place in which your grandparents were actually married, which is incredible. What was that experience like to be able to play in the same space that, not literally the same space, but at least the same country that your grandparents were married in?
Well, that's a great question. I went to Slovakia during the COVID year that I took in between my freshman and sophomore year of college. And I did it because I obviously wanted to stay on the ice and stay in peak shape and come back to the college level ready to go. But I also did it because I knew I wasn't going to have another chance to kind of explore my roots. And my grandparents are incredible people. They survived the Holocaust, and then they snuck to the US during communism. And they just made an incredible life for themselves. And so I always loved listening to their stories, but this seemed like an opportunity to go and sort of see where they came from for myself. And so I would say the most important thing when I was over there was to stay present and in the moment, because it was easy to see like how big everything seemed. And my grandpa would be like, well, this is where we lived in a furnace when we were hiding during the war. And so it was like kind of a crazy moment to have been able to play hockey there and have such an incredible life that they built for me. So going back there, and I got to meet a lot of their friends who still live in Slovakia. And so I'm just really grateful. Obviously, COVID had a lot of downfalls, but I'm really grateful that I had that year to be able to explore.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Durant Barristers. Durant Barristers is a proud supporter of women's sports and is an inaugural sponsor of the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Durant Barristers provides legal services for athletes, coaches, officials, administrators, and sports associations of all sizes, from minor associations to national sports organizations and professional sports environments. We routinely assist with safe sport complaints, investigations, anti-doping, harassment, discrimination, abuse, and governance matters. We also provide representation on general civil litigation matters, including employment and business disputes of all sizes. Durant Barristers founder Aaron Durant also provides mediation and arbitration services to assist in managing disputes in a timely and affordable manner. Durant Barristers has generously offered their best ever discount to fans and supporters of women's hockey. Mention the Rinkside Rundown podcast to, wait for it, receive 15% off all your accounts with Durant Barristers for the duration of your relationship with the firm. To learn more about Durant Barristers, visit www.durantbarristers.com. That's www.durantbarristers.com. Thank you to Durant Barristers for sponsoring this episode. And now, back to the show.
What do you think that did for you as a person? Just kind of, if you could expand on that a little bit more. Obviously, on the ice was great, but like, what did that do for you as a person in that moment? And then now, in reflecting, like, how do you feel in this moment that you're in right now, especially just being drafted into the PWHL, all those sorts of things, the incredible athlete that you are? How do you think that impacted you?
Yeah, I think the on-ice stuff speaks for itself. I got to be on the ice every day. I got to train every day, and I came back a lot better than I went there being. So on ice, that was great. But when people ask me about my experience over there, I always touch on the personal growth that I was able to do. There's obviously a time difference, so I wasn't having that much communication with people back home. I talk to my mom a lot because, like I said, support system. But I did a lot of growing up in that year. I was 19 and coming off of my first year of college. So I had been a little bit independent, but you're still kind of able to lean on your family, and you're still in the United States. Things are a little more familiar. There was a huge language barrier when I went. Kind of a bit of a culture shock. Some things were a lot different, and I had to learn how to introspectively deal with things, and I wasn't always gonna have someone there to hold my hand through things. And I think that the biggest thing for me in that year was my ability to work through things by myself, and I became a lot mentally stronger, and I also became a lot more grateful after seeing firsthand what my grandparents had gone through and sort of the history of that. I just think I became a lot older and wiser than just 1 year would suggest.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about, like, you were only there for a year, but it sounds like it's almost like you were there for like a decade or something like that with the amount of growth that you went through.
That's how it felt. It felt like I was there for like 5 years, but then when it was over, I was like, wait, I just got here. So I feel like time has a way of doing that. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially when you're immersing yourself in it and just really letting yourself, allowing yourself to soak it in as much as you can. Could you, shifting back to the ice, could you maybe, for those people who have not been fortunate enough to see you play, could you maybe describe your style of play and how you think that's going to translate to the PWHL?
Yeah, so I would say that a lot of what I'm great at is the intangibles of being able to see the ice, my hockey IQ and intelligence. And that in turn makes the people around me and my line mates better, just because we're making plays out there. We have a good sense of the ice. And then on top of the IQ, I would say it's my attention to details over 200 feet of the ice. I care as much about the D zone, if not more, as the O zone, and that starts in the face-off dot, which I take huge pride in, and that's something that I kind of cultivated while I was at Yale. And I'm the type of person that would prefer to block a shot than maybe score the fourth goal in a 4-0 game, just because I feel like that's what your teammates want to see from you. And so selflessness is another word that I would use to describe myself, and that sort of translates to my assist numbers. So I'm definitely able to produce offensively and put some goals on the board for my team, but that's not the main focal point that I would ask people to look at in my game. It would sort of be my ability to adapt to any role in my IQ and 200-foot game.
Well, just so you know, based off of everything you just said, that reaffirmed why I had you in my mock draft coming to Ottawa. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I'm super excited for you. But you had mentioned, and we've discussed a little bit about Yale. I mentioned it off the top as well. There was an initial desire for you to go to Harvard, but you ended up going to Yale. Could you talk a little bit about why you made that decision, like what went into that decision, and then obviously what was the experience like at Yale?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, both my parents went to Harvard. That's where they met, and then my older brother went to Harvard. So I grew up just thinking Harvard, like that was the only thing on my brain. Yale was never on my radar. And then my parents, during the whole recruiting process, really encouraged me to just shop around and see what was out there, because I hadn't ever considered anything else. And they were like, you can totally go to Harvard and we would love it if you went there, but I think that you just need to see your options and make the decision for yourself. And so again, I owe it to them that I didn't just pick up the phone and say, hey, yeah, I want to go there, that I kind of did my due diligence. And the minute that I stepped on Yale's campus, I fell in love. So that's the first thing. I just loved the area, the buildings, everything about the atmosphere. The team made me feel really welcome. So I would say that's number one. Number two is that I really cared, just like Harvard, about having a great education alongside my athletic career. And so to me, that kind of seemed like Ivy. And so that kind of narrowed out some other things. And then the third thing is I really wanted to have a lasting impact on a program. And Harvard had been great, was great, and I'm sure I would have loved stepping in there and being successful as well. But I was sort of sold in my visit to Yale on the fact of, you're going to come in as a freshman and you're going to make a huge impact, and I can't wait to see the things that you can accomplish while you're here, and you can really make this program you can really have a historical impact on this program and make a name for yourself. And that was really exciting to me, to come right in and have that opportunity.
So I appreciate it, and I feel like this is going to be a theme that continues, or this a thread that continues throughout this conversation, but just how much of an impact your family's had literally at every step of the way.
And I don't know if you watched the draft but my outfit was also styled by my sister, which I mentioned like 5 times. So yeah, I owe a lot to them.
And you crushed that, or I guess she crushed that look, but you rocked it for sure. Could you talk a little bit about, obviously, again, you went to Yale. And obviously, it feels like it had a big impact on you. But could you talk a little bit more about how what were the things about attending Yale and your time at Yale that you think helped to shape you? We can talk on the ice, but sure, by all means, let's talk about your development on the ice. But also, I feel like just as equally as important, or maybe a little bit more so, you as a person off the ice, especially now as you continue your career moving forward.
I would say I just grew into myself, which is kind of the coming of age story. I think that's the years of your life where you do figure out who you are and who you want to be and what you stand for. And so on the ice, I can't say enough good things. My coaches are the best people ever. I talk to them all the time, and I'm sure I will continue to talk to them. So on ice, amazing. I couldn't have asked for more. Same story for off ice. I was able to establish a network there of some really great people and a great support system, both within my team and outside of my team. And something great about Yale is they encourage you to explore other spaces and just figure out what you like, what makes you tick, the groups of people that you want to surround yourself with. And from 2019, when I started there, to 2024, when I ended there, I think I grew into the leadership style that I wanted to be. And I had the honor of wearing the C last year, but that translated to off the ice too. I definitely got our team involved in a lot of community service things, which I was inspired by other teams doing those types of things. So I just realized that hockey isn't everything. And as much as I want to play for as long as I can, there are other things that are important. And I think that it was sort of just developing that. And I ended up being a political science major, and I loved the school aspect, which I know sounds a little crazy, but I really loved my political science classes and learning. And my advisor was a judge, and she was just the coolest person. So I just think the best thing about Yale was there were so many different spaces that I was able to explore and people that I was able to meet.
So I have so many other questions, but you set me up with the perfect segue. So we're going to go with that one first. You had mentioned just how important community service was. So obviously you had a great career on the ice, but you also put in a lot of time giving back to the community. You were a volunteer and advocate for abused and neglected children in foster care, and founded a youth program called Skate to Be Great, along with volunteering at the Mandy Schwartz Bone Marrow Drive, where you helped to spread awareness of the drive and obviously Mandy's story. Could you talk a little bit more about just being involved in the community and maybe, what that gave back to you as well?
Yeah, I think that you can see how much women's hockey means to people based on this past year of the PWHL. I think that's a prime example of we are more than just athletes. I mean, after getting drafted, I got reached out to by like so many fans who were like, "You're such an inspiration." And so I think it was realizing that being on the Yale women's hockey team, I wanted the outside community and fans of the team to realize that we cared about giving back to the community. I mean, if we want them to come and support us, we need to support them. And so that was sort of where it stemmed from. And I really thought it was important to just get involved and foster those relationships and make a name for our team as people who do care more, or don't only just care about hockey and want to, make the community better and help people. And so that extended. I already sort of felt that way, but I wanted to bring that to Yale women's hockey. And I think that the league is also doing a great job in trying to think of ways that they can do outreach, because the fan base is growing exponentially, and it's important to remain engaged with them and show that we're people as well as athletes.
Yeah, and I think, this is obviously something that you did while you were at Yale, around really helping to promote some of the organizations that you were involved in, including the one that you helped to found. Could you talk a little bit more about Skate to Be Great and Mandy's story?
Yeah, so Skate to Be Great is actually back here in Michigan. My brother started it, my older brother, who I talked about before. And so that was sort of where my propensity to community service and wanting to give back came from. Again, huge role model. And so my sister then took that over, and then I took it over from her. And like I said, I grew up at the rink, and I was fortunate enough to have the means to do so. And I love hockey, and I just don't think it's fair that there's such a financial barrier there because it's such an expensive sport. And that was where Skate to Be Great came from. We wanted anybody to be able to go to our local rink where I spent my entire childhood and experience that same joy that we did. So we did equipment drives, free coaching, free ice. We made everything super accessible. So all that you needed to do was get to the rink, and everything else was taken care of. And the Mandy thing was more so something that I stepped into. Mandy was an alum, she was on the Yale women's hockey team, and then she died of leukemia. And so the bone marrow drive started in honor of her and hoping to save people with similar stories. So we do that in tandem with the football team, and it's become huge. Pretty much anyone that you talk to on campus will probably tell you they're on the registry. We do a one-day fair. I mean, it takes a lot of planning, but we do it for one day, and it's really easy. You just swab your cheek. And again, like, these things are so easy to do. We are so fortunate to have such means and health and ability to play hockey, or ability to just walk around as normal functioning members of society. So like giving a day or giving a month to whatever you want, as long as it's something that you're passionate about, like, it's so easy to do.
And we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their health and diets so they can perform their best on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, the Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is opening soon. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, get on the waitlist today. Learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com/course. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode. And now back to the show.
And once again, we have the continued thread that is the impact that your family had on you. Once again, in this as well.
I know.
It continues. It continues. It's fantastic. You've also had the opportunity to be a team manager with the USA Girls Player Development Program. Could you talk a little bit about what that experience was like, how it came to be? And again, as you have a theme on your side, I have a theme where it's all about the impact that it had on you. So you're going to hear me say that probably a couple more times throughout this conversation. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, I grew up in the USA Player Development Program. Sort of, if you're a hockey player and your dream is probably to play on the US team. So we all start in that program from a young age. And it's nerve-wracking. It's tough. That's another situation where you kind of leave your parents and are forced to be independent at an earlier age. And I just remember when I used to do those camps, I mean, they make every effort to make you as comfortable as possible, but your team manager has a huge impact because you're with them the majority of the time. You see your coaches, you know, when you're on the ice or when they're in the locker room, and you see this person there and this person there, but the manager is really there to walk you everywhere, be around you all the time, that you're on the same floor as them wherever they're living. And so when I got the email that it was a possibility for me to do, I of course wanted to do it because, like I said, I just remembered how I felt when I was that age, and it's such an exciting time and equally such a nerve-wracking time. So I just wanted to be there and make it as fun and awesome as an experience as possible. And I am so happy I did it. The people I met are great. There were some Michiganders who I now skate with actually sometimes, and it's all about the relationships you form. And I think I've realized that as I've gotten older is make as many relationships as possible and meet as many people, and it's important.
Yeah, and so knowing that, obviously going through that program, then being able to be a part of it in terms of the management side of it, what were some of the skills that you feel you took away from that you have helped you, but also, that we probably should at some point bring it back to your play on the ice, but also how it maybe, that different perspective, being a part of it from a management perspective, helped you on the ice as well?
Yeah, I think it's super easy to overthink when you're in those situations as a player. So it was nice to get to be sort of in the middle on the other side of it, where I was on the bench for a game. I was sort of around the staff a lot more, and you realize not everything is the end of the world. So it helped me realize to get out of my head a little bit and enjoy the moment a little more when I'm the player at the camps, because I am still going to camps and I still have the pleasure of getting to have these experiences. And so it was sort of a turning point for me to be like, okay, I already was having fun, yes, but it's, again, a pressure cooker. It's very nerve-wracking. And I saw how much fun these girls had at the camp that I was working. And I was like, this is like what it's all about. This is why we play hockey. And so obviously, yes, we're competitive and there's going to be nerves, and nerves are good. It means you care. But that specific experience helped me realize that, yeah, not everything is being hyper analyzed, and you can be yourself and have fun and still be just as good on the ice.
All right. Well, speaking of being good on the ice, nice segue there. We've spoken about your career to this point, but again, this week has been an incredible week for you, as you were drafted 25th overall by PWHL New York. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Secondly, do you remember that moment, and what was that like?
Yes, I remember it, but sometimes some of my friends were texting me like, oh my God, this quote was so good. I was like, I don't remember even being asked that. But the actual moment I do remember, we, at the draft, the camera crew got the inside scoop on like who was getting drafted like 10 seconds before they did, so that they could find the person and have their camera on them. So I kind of knew when it was my turn. I had like a 15-second buffer to be like, okay, like this is my time. And yeah, they called my name and it was so fun. My dad's whole side of the family lives in Minnesota, so they were all there. I think we were like 10 deep. So I heard them cheering, and I remember thinking like, I can't go down the entire line and hug them all and then like turn back around because the walk wasn't that short. So I had already kind of thought this stuff through, and then it kind of just kicked in. But it was such an awesome moment, and I think one of the things that I remember the most is that all of the girls, I mean, again, the hockey community is pretty small and we know a lot of each other. And so everyone's faces was just so happy for everyone, and it was no different for me. So when I was walking to the stage, what could have been like an awkward or nervous moment wasn't, because as I was walking by all of the girls, they were congratulating me or giving me high fives. And yeah, I think as a little girl, you dream about playing professional hockey. And I think when we were younger, that meant us dreaming of like, oh, we're going to play in the NHL, because there wasn't a great league like this that we could dive into. And so to see the fruition of the PWHL, and this is getting for us, the best league in the world. It was loaded. It's a dream, and we were dreaming that could be a dream, and what went to it. So it was such an incredible moment, and people and just we were all, it was great.
And so I want to know a little bit as well. Not all of us have the opportunity to be drafted, well, in any league, myself included. I want to know, what was it like? Like, could you take us back to draft night and just like what was going through your head throughout that entire experience? Bring us, like, pull the curtains back a little bit, walk us through, like, how did you prepare for that? What were the conversations like? Like, bring us back to draft night as if we were all there right now.
Okay. So there was obviously a lot of noise before the draft about who was going to go when and whatnot. So I think it was important for me to just live in the moment. The PWHL did such a professional job. They made us feel really special, and they made the draft feel like what it was, which was the best league in the world, and that we are professional hockey players. It wasn't just thrown together. It was really well done, down from the food to the announcers to the camera work. Like, everything was so great. But I think for me personally, I was just really wanting to live in the moment, because the lead up to the draft, the weeks leading up to it, I was like, oh, I just want to know where I'm going. I want to know when I'm getting drafted. Like, let's just skip 2. But then when I actually got to Minnesota and saw the whole atmosphere, the purple carpet was so fun. Yeah, it really made me feel like a celebrity. And so right upon walking in, I was like, okay, just enjoy the moment. You get drafted when you get drafted, and it'll be fun. And then you got to get back to work when you get home, because, you know, we all want to show up at training camp in the best form as possible.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. And what does it mean? Like, when you've been drafted by New York, hearing that you're going to New York, what does that feel like? What is that like? What kind of comes to mind or like, what's running through your mind when you're thinking about where you're going to go next?
I was jumping for joy. I am so excited to be going to New York. There's a lot of familiarity there. Back to the East Coast, I went to school in New Haven, which is such an easy commute to New York, and also quite the pipeline of my friends go from Yale to New York Finance. So I was really excited, because this is definitely a new endeavor, and we have been so comfortable in our roles at school for the past 5 years that, you know, starting any new endeavor is nerve-wracking. So I'm really excited with the familiarity of personnel there, as well as the girls who are already on the team have already been so great. Everyone reached out to us, just welcoming us and saying they can't wait to see us. And I feel like that's so important to team atmosphere and just making us feel welcome, because the more welcome and comfortable we feel, the better we'll play on ice and the better we'll get along off ice. So I can't think of any critiques of the way that New York handled the draft, from the players to the staff, and the location is the best location in my opinion. So I'm just ecstatic.
Good. I'm glad, and I'm sure you're going to rock it. I can't wait to see you hit the ice. Could you talk a little bit about, you know, we've kind of alluded to it a couple of times now, but just, you know, finally having a league that, you know, there was such an incredible response, regardless of the market. There was such an incredible response this past season to women's hockey, to the play on the ice, wins or losses. Yes, they obviously matter, but the fans showed up regardless, right? It was such an incredible experience. Can you talk a little bit now, knowing that there was such an incredible response to women's hockey, which we all knew was there, they just needed the opportunity, for the record. Could you talk a little bit about, now that you know that there's this enthusiasm, what it's going to be like to walk into that in year 2?
Yeah, so for as much as I loved Yale, we did not get huge turnouts at our games, and having the ability to watch what the league became so quickly was so much fun. My captain from when I was a junior is on Montreal, Claire Dalton. So we always put her games on in the lounge and would watch, and they had so many fans, and it just got me so excited to step into the league and all of the things that come with it. And I think the draft was just a little bit of a taste. There was such cute young girls there that just wanted to support us, and all of the fans. And it was definitely new for me, a new experience. And I knew that the support was there. I just hadn't witnessed it firsthand. So I'm so excited to play in front of a crowd, and I'm so proud of everyone that made this happen, because there has been a lot of people grinding for a long time without these numbers. And then now my draft gets the opportunity to just step in to a league that's already proved itself and that we know is going to have such great fans and voter and turnout.
Wow, that was a profoundly good answer, and I couldn't agree more. So, as we transition from the really insightful, deep questions, which you've been great for, and thank you once again for joining me. This has been so much fun. I'm really enjoying this.
Oh, thank you so much. I love it. I'm a yapper, so.
That's great. That's great. So am I. I've been trying to hold back because otherwise this would be a 3-hour episode. But now, before we move into this next segment, I just want to say how much there are so many people rooting for you, myself included. Even though I'm here in Ottawa, I promise you I'll be rooting for you.
I can't wait. US team, and you can get a teal jersey up behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have to do that now for sure. You're the reason I would do it. So I'll just wait until they have their jerseys, and then I'll get one with your name on it, and it'll be rep back here. Alrighty.
You're gonna need to do Ottawa one too, because the team names are coming out. So maybe there'll be different jerseys.
Maybe they will be. But I just wanted to wish you obviously the best of luck in this upcoming season. Obviously in the prep going into it, the move to New York. All those sorts of things. I'm wishing you the best of luck in all that.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me, and thank you for your support of the league. And again, it takes a village, so everyone that has anything to do with the sport and with our league is making a difference. So thank you, because now I have the opportunity to play professional hockey, and I'm so excited.
And that's what this is all about. So let's wrap things up here with a quick scientifically proven game that's going to really allow the fans to connect with you and learn more about you. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, perfect. So the crack team here at the Rinkside Rundown podcast has put all of these questions together. We've polled tons of people. This is going to be a great time. So we're going to start off with, I don't know what I'm saying most of the time. What are you most proud of this past season?
I am proud of the way that my team came together off the ice. This is kind of a longer answer than I think you probably wanted, but when I came in my first year, it was really important to me after the experience that I wanted to make anyone coming in feel welcome and feel like just another member of the team. I kind of hate the power dynamic of sometimes there's senior freshman power dynamic. There's definitely a time and place for, freshmen go pick up the pucks, but it was really important to me that everyone felt like they were on the same playing field. And I think that was what I'm most proud of this year, is our team was super close, loved hanging out with each other, and no one felt lesser than.
And I'm sure you got a ton of messages after you were drafted.
Yes. I did. I needed my blue light glasses, and my eyes were going cross-eyed, but it was so nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can only imagine. What is your go-to pregame meal?
See, this is not that fun of a question because we had the same thing every day, but it's grilled chicken, salad, a little bit of pasta, and then candy right before the big show.
Okay, so then that brings up an interesting question. What candy was it?
It was predominantly Nerd Clusters or Airhead Extreme Bites, but I started to get sick of them after 10 years of doing that, and so I started to rotate a little bit. Mike and Ike's were thrown in there, Skittle gummies, this and that.
Ooh, interesting. That sounds great to me. So, during the season, who owned the dressing room music and what was played most often?
That would be me.
Good. I thought so.
And it's not easy with a group of like 30 girls who have very strong opinions. But it depended on the day. For game day, obviously, it's not hype music, and so that was its own thing. There was a lot of Taylor Swift. There was a lot of Zach Bryan. There was a lot of just country music in general. And then you can ask anyone on my team, I have a lot of throwbacks. Like my songs, I got super lazy at some point in my life and I stopped downloading songs. So now all of the songs that are actually downloaded are like so old and you never know what you're going to get. So it's quite a mixed bag, but people weren't getting sick of things because you never knew.
Yeah, and everyone loves a good throwback song. So, and for you, this worked out well. Again, you're just saying like, oh, I just didn't want to download anything. But yeah, I curated this playlist. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of music, if you had to listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be? Now, it doesn't have to be that it has to be continuously playing. But if you're like, man, I'm waiting for a banger right now, like I just want a good song, it has to be this song.
Do you have an answer to that question?
Good news is I'm not on that side of this microphone.
Oh, that's such a hard question. That's like being like, what's the one food you're gonna eat for the rest of your life? How does someone pick that? Okay, well, I guess Before He Cheats, it never fails. That's a song that I never skip. So it must mean something.
Yeah, I was going to say it must mean something. So yeah, that's your choice. Okay, just remember that. Okay, so we spoke earlier about your Slovakian roots, being able to play over there, connect with the space in which your grandparents were a part of. Could you tell us what would be your favorite Slovakian meal?
Yeah, that's easy. It's called lecho, and it's like, I'm obsessed with vegetables, so it's just a bunch of vegetables like peppers and onions and veggies in like a water-based sauce. I'm not doing it justice, but my grandma has been making this for me since forever, and it's so delicious. And an honorable mention is stuffed peppers.
Okay, interesting. Okay. If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be?
I would say to enjoy the moments and not get ahead of myself. So, I mean, I made it to where I am, and I'm very happy about that, but there's definitely an element of stress or anxiety that may have hung over my head a few too many times with regards to hockey. So just trust in the process. It wouldn't have made me act any differently. It just would have made me happier in some moments. So just live in the present and trust that things will work out.
Again, that sounds like that's a callback to your time playing overseas.
Definitely.
Yeah. What's something that is on your bucket list?
Ooh. I really want to go to the Olympics. I don't know winter or summer, but it's always been on my bucket list. Because there's so many incredible athletes all in one place, and you wouldn't have to pick just one sporting event. So people are always like, what's the one sporting event you would go to? But this one you get to see so much, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm obsessed with sports and just competition. So definitely getting to the Olympics at some point.
Now, and yes, your competitive nature is definitely shining through, which is great. I'm assuming you mean as like an attendee rather than like a participant.
As a spectator who can just kick back and.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, I would love to go as an athlete too. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, well now that begs the question: what competition? Like, I mean, outside of hockey, what would be the competition that you would compete in?
Outside of hockey. The easy answer is tennis, because I played tennis my entire life and I was pretty good at it. But tennis is kind of brutal. It's like really taxing mentally and physically. So realistically, if it wasn't hockey, it would probably be tennis. But my dream would be to be a volleyball libero. I never played volleyball, but it seems so fun, and that seems like my dream job in a sport.
Well, it's never too late. Yeah. What's something people may not know about Elle Hartje?
Um, well, the answer that I would give people at Yale is that I'm pretty intelligent, but I like to just goof around with my friends, so sometimes that kind of got lost in the shuffle, but I do great in school, and sometimes my friends just didn't know that, and then would be surprised when I would get a good grade.
Well, I mean, you graduated with a political science a degree, and I dropped out of political science, so I can tell you how difficult it is, and you managed to stick it through. So that shows that side of you. So that's fantastic. Last question, or maybe the last question. What's something that motivates or inspires you?
I would say my biggest motivation is my family, which is so cliche. So let me think of something else.
No, that's perfect, because that's a perfect thread right through the whole conversation. It ends with your family.
They can't listen to this. I'm never gonna live it down. They're gonna be like, "Yeah, we're the best."
Yeah, I know, it's gone straight to their head.
I know.
So we're sticking with family. It's a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's the truth. So let's just stick with it.
Okay, I'll edit this part out for you, just so that you can share with them, and they'll never hear this. As I had mentioned earlier, this has been such an incredible experience. The fact that I get to chat with you the same week that you were drafted in the PWHL, you're going to make a huge impact in this league. This league is better today as a result of you being there than it was before. Thank you so much, Elle, for spending some time with me today. And like I said earlier, good luck this coming season.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And obviously we'll be playing in Ottawa, so hopefully I'll have the chance to meet you in person.
Oh, I can't wait. We'll make sure to make that happen for sure.
Perfect.
And there you have it, folks. For Elle Hartje, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been the Rinkside Rundown podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.